Hello everyone, this is Cantor Gaston Bogomolio. This is Conversations with the Clergy. I'm broadcasting from Beth Dora Benning campus in Florida, United States. And today we have a very, very special subject, which is very subtle. And I think that we have something to learn from here. I had myself continue working on this. As I mentioned before, I'm working very hard on a Mozart course, which is talking about your soul traits and working on your soul traits, called in Hebrew midot. This is a practice and an exercise that has been with Judaism long time, of masters who have been really working or insisting that Judaism cannot go without polishing one's soul traits. So they have been writing so many things, and there's a lot of written material that it's very, very helpful to really develop a human development and to evolve as a human being, as a person, as a soul. So we understand our soul came here to repair things, to elevate, to fix stuff, and that might come from other lives. So this is a very great opportunity that we'll have to improve ourselves before our soul departs again and might need to come back to this material world one more time. So talking about materiality and material world, there's something interesting here that Alan Morinis, who is the founder of the Mozart Institute, he writes about this soul trait that I want to talk to you about today, which is called, there you go, simplicity. In Hebrew we call it stavkut, and it can be also translated as contentment, not only just simplicity. And we'll talk about why and how they are related. So he writes that there is an irony in the contemporary American life, which is that we follow up a day spent giving thanks for all we have, which is called Thanksgiving. We follow that with Black Friday. So Alan Morinis says the following: when so many people wake up at the crack of dawn, to join, well, we know about what Black Friday is, right? So the Mozart teachers encourage us to spend time developing an inner sense of what is sufficient for us and on the material plane. Our tendency is to be dissatisfied and want more. And so we need to cultivate that sense of sufficiency. The reason to draw limits on our material pursuits is so we will have room in our lives for the spiritual. Beautiful. And even Ezra writes the same thing. He says, because it is said that the Jewish tradition already knows about this idea of simplicity from a very long time, from 400 years, thousands. The source that we know from the Torah itself comes from our patriarch Jacob. He awakes from his famous dream, the ladder. You remember the angels going back and forth and up and down, and he asked God to give him bread to eat and clothing to wear. So Ibn Ezra, which is a commentator from Spain, of the Torah, explains that Jacob is asking here to have his basic and minimal needs met. So bread to eat and clothing to wear, in order to be able to devote his time to spiritual pursuits. So over the years and over the millenniums, the commentators, looked closely, to the wording that Jacob is using in this verse, and say, couldn't just Yaakov or Jacob said, bread and clothing? Why do it have to be bread to eat and clothing to wear? And the answer of many until today is, isn't it obvious that bread is for eating and clothing for wearing? And the answer is no. It is not obvious at all. And I ask to you, my friends and the audience who are watching today, It is not hard, right, to think, continues Morinis, to think about people that might consume and serve food for reasons that have nothing to do whatsoever with eating or nourishment. Or people who wear clothing that has nothing to do just for wearing, to be covered or to keep warm. How many times we see competitions that are about eating food, right? Just for the sake of competing, right? Who can put so many hot dogs, or how many popcorns, in your mouth, how many can drink, So there are many, many times that we don't use our food for nourishment. And these are totally non-nutritional purposes, right? That impress other people, the luxury or rarity, right? How many times we have parties that's not for nourishment. For nourishment, you just need this. How many times we go to a restaurant and then they give you this dish when for nourishment you need just this. So here we come into the question of what is the need and whether if what you consume is a need or is a want. And we're going to do an exercise today about that. What you consume is either a need or a want in anything you do in your life, even spirituality. People say, oh, but I consume a lot of spirituality. And even spirituality, there is a limit. You consume because you need, or you consume because you want. And that's a question we ought to ask ourselves every single time that we head and we move towards into something, right? I know myself sometimes, many times, I had the inability to stop getting books to know more, even if I don't have the time to read them. But I feel fine that they're in my library. How many times are the times that I try, I have this course and I want to take this course, and then I get overwhelmed for no reason, just because I want to consume more of that. And it might be good to take one, but to take 2 or 3 might not be good at all. And we impress people sometimes that we take on this and we take on that and we take on everything, and then we take more work, and then we take more consultants, and we take a lot of things that we do. Sometimes it's because we want and not because we really need in every aspect of our lives. What about the garments, right? The wearing, clothes to wear, right? Now I'm wearing a cloth that has specifically, right, the logo of the 80th anniversary of Beth Torah, which is the synagogue that I serve. So the question is, I'm wearing this because I need it. I wear it because I want to show that I belong to this place. Or people who wear just brands just to show that they have bought in certain places. It might be that the brand just show off that it's an expensive place. So it doesn't matter which brand. And same things with anything. You can have a watch, right, that just tells you the hour, the time, when you need it, the clock. Now, you don't need a Rolex. You don't need $1,000. Same thing. So this is the whole idea of, is this what we need or what we want? And at the same time, the Judaism doesn't tell you that you shouldn't enjoy what God gives you. God gives you this material plane to enjoy, right? And it doesn't say that you shouldn't have desires, but it says, and it doesn't even say that you should have, or you should feel embarrassed, or you should feel bad or guilty for having, right? If God gives you, then use it. It's fine. But there are other questions that we should probably ask ourselves, and in order to see why we can work on simplicity, and everyone can work on simplicity. Even if you have a lot of money, if you have a lot of means, doesn't matter. Simplicity is still a soul trait that we can all work on. So when we talk about simplicity, we also have this idea, because the parasha of this week is Yitro, right? Yitro is our parasha, and in this parasha, the 10 commandments are given to the Jewish people and to the world, as many other commentators might say. and not just the people who were there, but all the souls, the 600,000 souls that were Jewish souls that were there, and there were also non-Jewish souls or Gentiles, as you want to call it. And the very, very last commandment says the following. It says, you shall not covet. Shall not covet, meaning desire or want your neighbor's wife, your neighbor's staff, anything that is on your neighbor's, your neighbor's handman, maid servant, ox, ass, cattle, anything that is on your neighbors, you should not covet. You should not desire, like wanting, like like envy, right? Here we come with the idea of also that we envy, jealousy, and many other things we can think about when you covet someone. Just think about it. When you want something from someone else, when you want something that someone else have that it seems that you didn't have, it can create so many things that we can all work on, like the soul trait of simplicity, right? But there are other soul traits that probably arise as we covet. So it says that this 10th and final commandment, it says that there are commentators that say that this commandment entails all the other commandments together. So do you get a perspective on the importance of simplicity now that we're talking about it in Jewish thought, when you realize that this is one of the 10 commandments? Can you understand the idea of simplicity, how important it is? Think about simplicity, because simplicity in Hebrew, as we said before, right, it may mean also contentment. So here might have a big issue of gratitude. If you're not content, right, and it says in the Pirkei Avot, in the Talmud, it says, who is happy? Eizeu ashir hasameach vechelko. The one who is happy with his lot, with his portion, with what he has. So if you are not happy with what you have, so two different things. One, you're telling God, you made a mistake, right? You didn't give me enough. And then when you covet someone else or you desire what someone else have, then you are into, then I want what he has. Then you are also ungrateful. So when you're not happy, when you're not happy with your portion, you are ungrateful. You're telling God, I'm not happy with what you gave me. I want more. Or I want what he has or what she has. Then we get into ungratefulness. So gratitude, it's something we should work. Then we work in humility. Why are we working in humility? Because how humble are you to say, I'm not happy with what I have? Well, if God decided that you, for this life, in this life, you get what you get, maybe there's something you need to work on. Maybe something that until you're not happy with your portion, you're not going to get more. So complaining, coveting, desiring what someone else have, then it will get you stuck and stagnant in that position. Just think about it. And then desiring what someone else have, it creates envy. Again, he has what I want. And even if that's the thought behind this, is, do I want it or do I really need it? Do you attach any significance to it being the 10th commandment? Some say that lo tachmod, you shall not covet, encompasses all the commandments and the entire Torah. The whole commandment, the entire Torah. Can you imagine that? How important it is? Not only the 10 commandments, but also the entire Torah based on lo tachmod, you shall not covet. So here's a question that Alan Morini says, what are your ideas as to how that could be? So think about it. So, in this midah of istapkut, his tap kut, right? The one that we have been translating now as simplicity or contentment. It says that it's the antidote to something the Torah warns us about, which is such emphasis that it is included in one of the Ten Commandments. Imagine that we were just talking about, right? So coveting is not an objective assessment of what one has compared to what one needs. It is a relative assessment of what one has as compared to what another has. It's even worse. Not you with yourself need, want, but want the other people's things. So coveting is therefore the opposite of contentment with what you have, I just said before. The root of coveting another's possession is a lack of satisfaction with our own or your own lot in your life. So with all these thoughts in your mind, I would like to direct you into meditation, or into thought, inner thought. So if you want to close your eyes, feel comfortable, just get comfortable. Separate your legs and just sit on the ground and ground your legs. Take a deep breath in and just relax. Deep breath in. Hold it and release. Take a deep breath in and release. So now think of someone who has more than you, or who is more affluent than you. Just review that person's possessions that you would love to have yourself. Try to get quite imaginative. Just imagine that lot, that possession. How would it feel to live in that house? How would it feel to have that car? Or to own that art? Or wherever it is that you see that other has that you lack. So feel the pleasure you would get from those possessions. Just spend a few moments letting yourself experience what it would be like to enjoy the gifts that someone else has that you do not. Now, take a different perspective by looking at your own life. What do you actually lack that you really need? Think about it. What do you really lack that you really need? Do you have a roof over your head and a safe bed to sleep in? Do you have adequate food? Do you have a community of friends and family? Do you have access to health care, learning materials, leisure activities? When you look at what you have in comparison to what you actually need, is it adequate? Pulling the two perspectives together, can you find any valid grounds for you to covet another person's possession? Even if you do lack some things that it is a necessity, wouldn't you be better off putting your energy into satisfying that need rather than inflaming the desire for what someone else has. And even if you do lack some things, aren't there still many, many, many things that you do have that meet your needs in life? Spend a few moments allowing your heart to feel the joy and satisfaction for that which you have, that it is adequate for your needs. And say to yourself, I have enough. I am enough. I have enough. I am enough. Shabbat Shalom to everyone.